In a world that's just constantly shouting, there's this hidden strength, right? A quiet power that often goes completely unnoticed. And that's what we're diving into today, the power of the pause. We're going to find out why the person saying the least might just be the most powerful one in the room.
So why is the quietest person in the room often the most mentally powerful? I mean, it kind of goes against everything we're taught, doesn't it? Speak up, be assertive. But here's the thing. Understanding this unlocks a huge advantage. I'm talking leadership, negotiations, even just your everyday conversations. So let's unpack the psychology behind this silent strength.
Okay, so to really get this, we've got to bust a common myth first. Think about it. We've all been in that meeting, right? Or maybe a conversation where one person is just quiet. And what happens? Our brains immediately, almost automatically, start jumping to all sorts of conclusions about them.
And just look at this contrast right here. On one side, you've got what most of us think. Oh, they must lack confidence, or they're totally disengaged, or maybe even they just have no ideas. But the hidden reality? Well, that tells a completely different story. That silence, it's not empty. It's often a space for incredible observation, for deep strategic thinking, and for really deliberately processing everything that's going on.
So this hidden reality, it brings us to a really crucial point. We've got to totally reframe how we think about silence. It isn't a weakness, it's not some empty space, it's actually, believe it or not, a misunderstood superpower.
This quote really nails it. Silence isn't a lack of confidence, it's a misunderstood strength. See, it's not about fear, it's about control. It's not an absence of thought, it's a space that's actively filled with it. It's a conscious choice, right? A choice to listen, to observe, and to process before you act. And this is where you see the tactical advantage in action. Think about it. While everyone else is busy talking, just filling the air with their knee-jerk reactions, the quiet person, they're observing. They're watching body language. They're listening to the little nuances in what's being said, and maybe more importantly, what's not being said. They're basically collecting data and forming a strategy.
So what do we actually call this superpower? Is there a scientific name for it? Absolutely. And this is where we get into the real mechanics of it. It's a super powerful cognitive function, and we're calling it the pause. And trust me, it's the engine that drives this entire strength.
Okay, so the fancy formal term is cognitive inhibition, but honestly, the pause is just a perfect way to think about it. It's that absolutely critical moment of self-control where you literally stop your knee-jerk automatic reaction in its tracks. You halt that first impulse, and you give yourself the space to choose a much more thoughtful, deliberate response. In short, it's the huge difference between reacting and responding.
So how does this actually work in real time? Well, it's basically a 4-stage process. Let's walk through it. First, a stimulus occurs, right? Someone asks you a really tough question in a meeting. Step 2, your automatic reaction kicks in. Maybe you feel defensive or you get a little anxious. Then comes step 3, and this is the game changer. The pause engages. You consciously stop that impulse. And finally, step 4, you choose a deliberate response, one that's calm, strategic, and way more effective.
Okay, so what's the actual payoff here? What do you get from mastering this pause? Well, it gives the observer a massive strategic advantage in almost any situation you can think of. Let's break down the 3 biggest benefits.
All right, advantage number 1. You see what others miss. It's that simple. When you're not scrambling to figure out what you're going to say next, your mind is totally free to just absorb everything else. You start noticing the hesitation in someone's voice, the real group dynamics at play, maybe the flawed assumption that everyone else is just building on. You're basically a detective gathering clues while everyone else is just broadcasting their opinions.
Advantage number 2 is a big one. You avoid costly mistakes. I mean, how many times have we all said something in the heat of the moment and just immediately wished we could take it back? The pause is your built-in safety net. It stops you from making a bad situation worse by reacting emotionally instead of thinking strategically.
And all of this naturally leads to advantage number 3. You formulate wiser, more impactful responses. With that little bit of extra processing time, you can connect dots that other people aren't seeing. You can think about the long-term consequences and then craft a contribution that actually changes the direction of the conversation. So when you do finally speak, your words have real weight because they were chosen carefully, not just blurted out.
Okay, so this is all great in theory, right? But this isn't just some abstract concept. It's a practical skill, something you can actually learn and get better at. It's all about learning how to go from being a passive observer to a deliberate strategic actor.
And the best part is, you can start practicing this right away. Here are 3 super simple but really powerful ways to do it. First, just try this. Intentionally wait 3 seconds before you reply to anything. Seriously, just count to 3 in your head. It'll feel a little weird at first, but it works wonders. Second, when you feel a strong emotion bubbling up, anger, frustration, whatever, just take a deep breath before you speak. That physical action literally interrupts your brain's emotional hijack. And third, try to shift your whole mindset in conversations. Focus on actively listening to understand, not just waiting for your turn to talk.
Now, it's really important to be clear on this next point. This is not an argument for just being a wallflower or staying silent all the time. Not at all. The whole point of the pause isn't to stay silent forever. It's to make sure that when you do speak, your words land with intention, with purpose, and with power. It's all about quality, not quantity. So, I'll leave you with this one question to think about. The very next time you're in a conversation or a meeting or even an argument, I want you to pay attention to that tiny little gap, that moment between what happens and what you say. Are you just going to let your automatic impulse take over and simply react? Or are you going to engage the pause and choose to respond? The power, as we've just seen, is all in that choice.